We have got lots to talk about. Let's rewind a little bit. What's going on today, boys? Welcome back to the channel. We have a lot to go over. Some stuff might make some of you not the happiest and some might be actually pumped for it, but we have a lot to go over regarding the turbo kit and ultimately what engine it's going to be on going in this car. If you guys have been following, you would know that we've been kind of building up this B18B because it has head studs already, and in theory it's ready for boost. But the problem being with this engine is we replaced pretty much everything exterior. Like, we got a new rear main seal. We were going to extract this bolt, do new cam caps, new cam seal. We got a fresh intake manifold, gaskets everywhere. We got the fresh turbo kit. We got the fresh timing belt on it, cleaned up everything. But that's not really the issue. We've refreshed everything on the outside of this engine. And the thing that's not so great with this engine is you can refresh all the stuff on the outside that you want, but the inside is still absolutely filthy. I mean, it is just all gunked up everywhere you look. And when we had taken the oil pan off to see if it had a built bottom end, it was just as gunky down there as it is up here. So unfortunately, I believe that this engine might be a little bit more tired than what we were initially anticipating. And because of that, today I'm going to be mocking up the turbo manifold and the turbo on the engine that's in the car, our Civic Type R swap from back in the day, the B16A swap, because that engine is fresh. It's brand new. If you remember a couple years ago, if you've been a long time subscriber, when we put that engine in the car and took this engine out, because this engine is what came in the car when I bought it like 6 years ago, and we had taken this out and put in the NA B16A, and when we had the valve cover and everything stripped down off the B16A, it looked brand new. There was not a speck of carbon. None of this was black. It was all shiny aluminum, and everything is completely fresh. What I want to do with this is completely tear it down, send it off to the machine shop, put some forged H-beam rods and pistons and internals in it so this thing can handle a lot more than the stock 8 to 10 psi. I want to get this engine to be able to handle 500 plus, but in order to do that, I need to send it to the machine shop, and internal parts are very expensive. So the reason being that this turbo kit has to go on the B16 is simply due to machine shop time. Let me know what you think of this in the comments below. I don't want to be the heartbreaker in today's video, but it really just is what it is. Let's start stripping the turbo kit off this and putting it on the B16 that's in the car, and then today we can finally see what a top mount turbo kit looks like on a B series in our EG hatch. Now that we've got the turbo hot side pulled off the B18B, laid out on the table, I have new bolts for this. This turbo came with studs and nuts to put on the turbo manifold, but the problem is this is too thick and this is too thick. There's not enough clearance to bite down. So I went ahead and got bolts and nuts instead of stud and nut combo that are a little bit longer, same thread and everything, so we're going to be using those. But now that the B18's out of the way, we can tuck that in the corner and head on into the car and start stripping off the NA exhaust manifold to put this one on. Well, I may or may not have forgotten that the O2 sensor, our wideband, is a part of the header. So before I rip this header off and snag my O2 out with it, I need to crawl under this car and get the O2 off. And guys, if you don't have an O2 sensor puller, spend the $10, $15 on it, because this makes life so much easier. All you guys that have pulled O2 sensors that are seized on after all those heat cycles and road grime with a wrench, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Wideband sensor pulled. Let's take a peek at it here, because this ran for a summer tuned NA on this B16, and as we can see, that tip is clean. If you guys need any tuning needs, and this is not sponsored, but seriously, if you need any tuning needs on your Honda, and you want to do it remotely, or even go to a dyno and have him remote in, get Nabil tuned to do it. Mohammed Nabil with Nabil tuned. He knows exactly what he's doing. He's tuned this car and it's never ran so good before in its life. And after a full season of limiter and raging, with that O2 sensor looking like that, that's cleaner than a stock O2 sensor would be after a year on a stock ECU. This guy knows what he's doing, but now that that's off, let's finally get these NA headers off so we can put the turbo kit on, finally see what this looks like on the car. And don't be alarmed, I know this valve cover is in dire need of a refresh. We're gonna get VHT wrinkle red and do the same thing we just did with the B18B valve cover, but on our B16. Okay boys, and just like that, the exhaust manifold is pulled. We do have a snapped exhaust manifold stud in this head, and it is a little deeper than what I would have wanted. It's not a flush break, so I don't really know how we're gonna go about extracting that. I'm probably gonna have to get the fabricator to do that, but as you can, I did put some gloves on because these are heat wrapped, and fiberglass is not something that you want to have stuck in your skin. So here's the stock exhaust manifold. I'm gonna go put this off to the side, bring over the turbo manifold, and we're gonna get bolting it up. For now, I'm not gonna use the Speed Factory studs until that bolt is extracted. I'm just gonna use my J2 Industries Allen bolt and washer kit to fasten it on. This never had an exhaust leak with the snap stud, but I'd still like to get that fixed, and I really want to run my Speed Factory titanium studs, but I don't want to do it till I can install them all at once. But without further ado, let's go ahead and grab our top mount PLM manifold and stick it on this thing so you can see what it looks like. I'm so pumped. All right, and there we have it. Turbo manifold installed on the B16A. Got the J2 Industries hardware holding it down. Like I said, we do have one snap stud there, but these J2 Industry hardware kits are fantastic. They look super sharp, little logos on there. Either way, we're gonna be running our Speed Factory titanium studs, but now it's time to get the turbo installed on this manifold with proper nuts and bolts and not those stupid little studs. So let's go grab the turbo and the hardware, slap it on. First problem we're running into is this bracket with the ground is in the way. So I'm gonna move the ground to right here and take this bracket off so we can fit our turbo. All right guys, little speed bump, but no big deal. Basically what's going on here is the compressor housing is hitting this bracket right here. And I needed to take the manifold off just so I could get a wrench in there to blast this thing off. But now that that's all fine and dandy, I think, knock on wood, we should be able to go after this bracketry is off. All right, and this is the bracket that was causing all of our issues. Now with that out of the way, I don't think the one below it makes any contact. I'll have to check that as well, but we can't really do anything about this except chop this off because it is an actual post mount, so we kind of need that. The turbo does fit now, so let's get the gasket, the bolts, and the turbo on so we can finally see what this thing looks like. I am so freaking hyped right now. Oh baby, this is looking absolutely heinous, boys, but yet another thing done and another thing causes a problem. If you follow me under the car here, you can see these bolts hanging down right here. There's not enough space to get a nut on in between the wastegate and the collector. It's too tight, so what you're gonna have to do is hold the nut at the base of the flange and then thread the bolt down into it. I think that'll work. I'm gonna have to test it out, but of course we run into issues. This side, both the nuts went on perfectly fine. This side where the wastegate is, they do not go on. So I'm gonna try and unthread those two bolts and hold the nuts in place at the top and run the bolt through them, see if that helps. All right boys, and there it is. Turbo is on the B16A. What a sight to see. The turbo is actually on the car. This looks absolutely incredible. Another thing we're running into I'll start off by saying that my bolt trick worked by holding the nut on the bottom and running the bolt down. Without doing that, those nuts wouldn't have been able to go on. So all 4 bolts, all 4 nuts are on. 2 have lock washers, 2 don't because I couldn't fit them. So, next issue. We plan to do a hood exit with this car, which would come out and go up right about here. If we get a little bit closer here, you'll be able to see that if we do a downpipe, the wastegate is going to sit here and fill up this space. So the downpipe is going to get in the way of the shroud, and it's really close to the slave cylinder. So we're going to need to do slim fans if we want to run a downpipe, which is probably what we're going to have to do, because from the turbo all the way over to the first rad hose, we have 15 inches exactly. And if I grab my book here, we can see that my tuner for the wideband to have proper reading needs to be 11 to 12 inches away from the turbo, and then it needs to be 7 to 10 inches away from the outlet of the pipe. So I'm not too sure how people are getting away with doing hood exits. If it needs to be 11 to 12 inches away from the turbo, that means the placement of it's going to have to be right about here, but that gives us like 2.5 inches to the outlet of it, not 7 to 10. So downpipe looks like it might not be long enough to get an accurate reading off a wideband. So I'm gonna have to figure out something with this radiator. I'm probably just gonna get the Yonaka dual core, so it's just as wide as this, and that comes with their slim E-fan, and hopefully that'll grant me enough access to actually run a downpipe. The next major thing after doing slim fans and a new rad is having a 3-inch downpipe. We might have to run 2.5 downpipe to a 3-inch exhaust. I don't like to do that. I don't like the turbulence it creates. I'd like to just go 3 all the way through, but whatever we got to do to make this work, we're gonna have to. I'd still like to do a hood exit, but I don't know if I'm gonna be able to find a proper wideband placement. Let me know down in the comments below what you guys have done for wideband placements and hood exits, but so far, this is looking sick. If only our valve cover was properly painted and not all chipped up, this would look so much better. Also, this car is dubbed the Outlaw EG. I'm gonna get a laser CNC plate for here that says Outlaw EG, polish up all the emblems, paint it wrinkle red, and then we already have the Skunk 2 hardware on it, so this thing is gonna look absolutely menacing. Have to find a new location to route the level 7 oil catch can, oil cap, but for today, the turbo is on the B16 and this thing looks sick. And just for you guys to see, let's check out the B18 with the freshly painted, now cured valve cover. Boom, there she is, fellas. It looks a hell of a lot better with a clean cover on it, obviously, as it should. If it didn't, that would be concerning. Brand new fresh wrinkle paint. We're gonna do this exact same job on the B16, but in wrinkle red to retain that Civic Type R aesthetic to it. The wrinkle black turned out phenomenal. I highly recommend this VHT paint. I could have done a little bit better on my cross hatching. We have a couple glossy spots that aren't too textured, but if you do it right, it turns out fantastic. And this is no joke. This turned out really awesome. But with all that being said and done, that's really all I've got for you guys today. B16 is getting the turbo kit. B18 non-VTEC is getting a VTEC head. Probably this head, to be honest with you. If not a GSR head, if I can find one for a reasonable price. And forged H-beam rods, forged pistons, sleeve or block girdle, and it's going to be ready for 500-600 horsepower. Obviously, we're going to do ARP head studs again, ARP rod studs, ARP main studs, ACL race bearing, you know, the whole 9. The engine's going to be capable of a shit ton of horsepower. But for now, considering this stock to that stock, They both hold the same power. Let's turbo the one that's in the car so we can have fun sooner, and let's get that engine over there on the stand, internals built. Because right now everything on the outside is refreshed and it just doesn't sit right with me with the internals being old, weak, and tired. So since we refreshed the outside, we're gonna continue on with the refresh of the B18B, get it forged, sleeved, whatever it needs to do to make 5-600 on ethanol. And if you guys are hyped for that, turn the notifications on, because next week our big Garage 16 order comes in with our wastegate, with our flange, with everything to really wrap up and finish this turbo build. The only other thing I need to order is the Yonaka radiator with the slim fans, now that I've realized that I need that, and the fuel injectors, and I've decided to go with 550cc for now because they're a lot cheaper than the thousands, and apparently unless you need the thousands, you don't do it on Honda because it can't be scaled to be quite as daily driver friendly as stuff that's sub 8 to 750cc. The 550cc injector is going to be able to make more horsepower than what this engine could put out stock anyways, so I'm going to save a couple bucks and go with the 550s for now, and then this thing is basically complete. So until next time, boys, comment, like, subscribe, and I hope to see you in the next one. Peace out.